Real Estate Pro Talk with your host, Greg Ernie, connecting people, community and property.
Well, hello and welcome. Greg Ernie here and welcome to another episode of Real Estate Pro Talk. Today we're going to be talking about the massive rental shortage. I would almost say it's potentially almost a crisis out there at the moment for tenants that are looking to find a property to rent. Never in my real estate career have I ever seen such a shortage of available rentals, and for tenants that are looking to find a new home, it really is alarming. And I've seen and met with many tenants that are really struggling to secure a home. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Jessica Lander, who runs our rental team down at Croydon. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you.
So probably first of all, can you just give us a bit of a snapshot what's happening out there as far as the rental market?
Yeah, so you pretty much just put a nail on the head there. The market is very, very strong. From a rental point of view, it's probably the first time I've ever seen the sales and rental market going in the same direction. There is a massive shortage out there for a lot of our tenants. We are seeing that prices about 12 months ago, we are rating probably anywhere between, call it 10 to 20, if not $30 extra. And we are seeing increasing numbers come through a lot of our inspections.
So just when you say 10 to 20, $30 per week extra, so that's a significant rental increase.
It is.
That tenants are having to face.
Yep.
Current vacancy rate, I know, as an example, in a city, you know, they've been really severely hit with COVID, and they don't have the rental crisis like what we do. They've got a vacancy rate of sort of 7%, which is extremely high. In our area where we are,
we're looking under that 1%. So at the moment, I think overall we've probably only got about 14, maybe 15 properties on the market.
Jess, if I can just jump in there to give you an idea, or the viewers that are watching, normally for our 4 offices, we might have anywhere from 40 to maybe 50 properties available. So, you know, we manage for a lot of owners close to about 2,500 properties for rent. So to only have 14 coming available like that is, it's scary for the tenants, isn't it?
It is, and days on market are probably sitting anywhere between that 7 to, if not 14. But I have to admit, we are leasing properties probably within that 2 to 3 days as soon as they've gone on. Yeah.
So in other words, they're coming on, and generally when they're coming on, the tenants have given notice, they're coming on within a week to 2. Probably the current tenant hasn't even vacated. We're finding tenants, they're basically almost moving in within a couple of days of it coming vacant.
Yes.
So it's and how many tenants are you seeing coming through your inspections and opens?
Yeah, so with COVID and the restrictions, at the moment we can only have 10 people through the inspections. We are seeing probably close to that.
Yep.
Example, I had a property yesterday that is a 3-bed, 1-bath in Croydon North, and we had 9 people through yesterday, and then the day before we had close to 8 as well. So really, really strong numbers. And the main question that everyone asks at the door is, how can I secure this property? So,
why do you think there is such a supply shortage of properties available?
It's a good question. I think, as of most landlords would know, that on the 29th of March this year, the government did bring in over 130 new residential reforms that has really changed the way we conduct property management.
And I think those reforms, in essence, came in probably to give the tenants more protection. And as a result of that, a lot of the landlords, and I know we're hearing it here, a lot of the landlords are extremely disappointed and aren't happy with those changes. So, and I know as from the sales side, we've put a lot of rental properties on the market to sell for that reason, but also probably because the market has been booming and prices are so good. But what other reasons?
Yeah, as you just said, the sales market is extremely strong.
Yep.
Last year, when we had obviously the stage 4 lockdown, there was a moratorium in place, which meant that a lot of our landlords were unable to do any rental increases, evictions on tenants. There was a ban on that. So therefore, this year, they've gone through a year of not being able to do a lot.
Yep.
So they are deciding that, look, the market's really strong from a sales point of view. It is a good opportunity to free up some cash.
Yep.
And we have noticed a lot of, as you said, a lot of our owners have decided to go down that path, which is creating a lot of shortage out there for the rental market.
And I think the other thing where owners or landlords have probably, in essence, you could say are probably frustrated or have had enough is because of the compliance now. And you talked about the rent increases, $20 to $30 is quite common increase. because of the compliance cost that a landlord now has that could be anywhere from $800 to $900 every 2 years. Naturally, the landlord's looking to pass that expense on. The other thing too, I think because of the real estate sales market is so hot, and combined with these laws that investors and landlords aren't overjoyed by, a lot of investors aren't actually buying property at the moment as well. So, all of it's created to almost be like a bit of a perfect storm, hasn't it?
It has, and you're right. There's not a lot of investors that we're noticing in our current marketplace, which again then reflects when we're trying to gain new business as well.
And I don't want to labour too much on the negatives, but as far as frustration for landlords, which is a big concern, how long now is it taking if a tenant's not paying their rent? If you wanted to evict a tenant and a tenant's not paying the rent, how long roughly is that process?
So it is a bit of a lengthy process now. The VCAT have implemented a 5-strike policy. So technically, a tenant does have 5 strikes in order to pay back the rent. In saying that, if it's their first strike and they do not pay the rent back, and then we need to apply to VCAT, I couldn't even give you how long we could be waiting. Could be 6 to 8 weeks.
So the point probably that I'm making, I don't want to labour too much on the changes, but I think that the thing for tenants that are out there that are looking and are almost scared that they're going to be homeless because maybe the property they're in, the landlord's moving back in or the landlord's selling it. Now they've got to go and find another rental property. It's almost in effect that because of these changes that have been brought in by the state government, in essence, and obviously there's the market as well, and that's why a lot of owners are selling, but because the reduction of the number of properties that are there, it's like these laws that were brought to help the tenants are actually now... It's almost hurting the tenants, isn't it?
That's correct.
Not only are the tenants having to pay much higher rent, but they're not having the availability. It really is a concern. And I was chatting to a lady this morning, and she's been renting for the last 4 years. The property that she's in is now going on the market, and she's terrified that she's not going to be able to find something. And she was asking me, well, what's it like? And I said, you've got to do everything you can and be out there and looking and all of that. And that's probably, can I ask, what advice do you give to tenants now that are looking? How can they secure their home?
So I think because we are having so many people come through the property, we are then receiving multiple applications. The one bit of advice I can say to any renter that is in the market and is applying for property is to ensure that you are putting as much information on your application, making sure that even potentially supplying a cover letter, because the person that is conducting your open for inspection is not always the property manager that then will be looking through your app. So you need to ensure that it's, as soon as we look at it, that all the information is there and it looks really good on paper. Some tenants out there, because they're unable to find something and the owner of their property that they're renting could potentially be selling or needing to move back in, we are noticing that tenants are starting to now put an additional $10, if not $30 a week on top of what the advertising price is.
So that's an interesting point. So with the changes that are coming in, it's legally as estate agents, we can't entice, we can't even say to tenants offer more, and we're not allowed to do that.
That's right.
So you're seeing it where tenants are actually taking that on their own bat. And I think that's probably a key. And we've got to keep in mind, just because a tenant offers to pay more in rent doesn't necessarily mean they're always going to be the best tenant.
Yes.
But at the same time, from the landlord and our job as the agent is we want to find naturally the best tenant that's going to look after the property and of course pay the rent. And if there's 2 applicants where they're both excellent tenants, but one tenant decides he's going to offer $20 more per week in rent, or might even say, look, I'll pay 12 months in advance. First of all, we're not allowed to advise the other tenant what the other applicant has offered. That's just how it is. And so there are some things I think for tenants that are looking, you've got to make your own judgments, and it's a delicate one because we've got to be seen that we're not, and certainly we can't encourage it. We can't even say it to a tenant, but that's what we're seeing out there in the market.
It is, and I think a lot of our applications at the moment are coming with a cover letter and are making sure that they've filled out every bit of detail. They've supplied as much information as possible, whether that's a letter from their current agent, whether that's a letter from employment, bank statements, etc. Anything to make that application stand out from the rest. That's what a lot of the renters are doing at the moment. It'll be interesting what happens going forward, because I think at a state level certainly, but I think
local government, state government, there's a real problem, and I can see it coming. It is a challenge going forward, and I think for the state government especially, they've got a real challenge on their hand as well. How are they going to handle this? Because I can see it coming, and we're only really at the start of it. So to be having where rental prices are increasing substantially so quick, and properties are basically not vacant at all, and we're getting multiple applicants on the one home for tenants, it really is a concern. Is there anything else you want to add around the let's call it rental crisis, because that's how I see it, that it is?
Yeah, it definitely is a rental crisis, and as you said, we're at the beginning of it. And most times when an application for a tenant is unsuccessful, they do call us, and they're begging us, number one, find us something else, or how do we make our application stand out? So it will be interesting to see what happens in the course of the next sort of 6 to 12 months.
Yep.
Hopefully investors are buying. Because
that's what I was going to say. Investors, rents are going up substantially. So, and I guess there's a saying, when some zig, that's when you should zag. There's a lot of investors that are choosing to get out of the market. So, now's the time, and I know prices are going up. And that's another question, what will prices do? And we won't talk about that today. But at the end of the day, rents are certainly on the increase, and I can't see them. They've probably held level for a while, and they're certainly on the increase. The other thing probably where it really highlighted things, and this has been happening prior to the storms, but the amount of people that we had, desperately seeking accommodation and homes after the storms that we had a couple of weeks ago. You really felt for them, because they're just like, there just wasn't anything that we had available.
And that's exactly right. The sales team had people calling, every day after that massive storm, help us find something. And as a rental team, we did everything we could to try and coordinate maybe a property that we've got sitting there that's not ready to be shown to tenants just yet, trying to get people through, etc. But given the massive supply from tenants at the moment, a lot of owners, number one, preferred to go to market, but we just couldn't find anything, and it is really sad, because that storm has affected so many of our people in our local area.
Absolutely.
But we will continue trying to find them something.
That we will. Well, Jess, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
It's an interesting period for property management. There's a lot of changes, and for tenants, we feel your pain, and I think probably what Jess said is supply as much information as you can. I guess you've got to make your own decision what you see value as far as the rent offering and those sort of things, but definitely supply as much info, a cover letter. These are, sometimes it's just the little things that can help secure the property. And don't delay. If you see a property that you like, get your application in straight away, and sometimes it just can be the reason why you might get it compared to someone else.
Exactly right.
Jess, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.